Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. So today, we're diving into a vivid green powder that's just completely taken the culinary and wellness worlds by storm. Yep, we're talking about matcha. We're going to trace its incredible journey, all the way from its mythical origins as an ancient medicine, to its revered place in Japanese tea ceremonies, and finally, to the massive global phenomenon it is today. But hey, before we get too far, I've got to ask you something. Think about the last time you ordered a matcha latte at your local cafe. Was that bright green drink actually real matcha? Or was it just a sugary green tea imposter? You might be surprised to learn that, thanks to its surging popularity, a lot of what's sold around the world today doesn't actually meet the historical and traditional criteria of authentic matcha. Crazy, right? So here's our roadmap for today. First, what is authentic matcha? Second, from medicine to tea ceremony. Third, harvesting whole leaf health. Fourth, the global matcha boom. And finally, protecting true matcha's future. All right, let's jump straight into section 1. What is authentic matcha? The whole foundation of real matcha comes down to a very specific type of tea leaf called tencha. You really can't just grind up any old green tea leaf and call it matcha. True matcha requires tencha, which is grown by actively blocking out direct sunlight right before harvesting. And why block out the sun? Well, this intentional shading actually stresses the plant out. It forces the leaves to overcompensate by pumping out massive amounts of chlorophyll and amino acids. This stress is exactly what produces a kabusa, that deeply savory sweet aroma, while seriously lowering the tea's natural astringency and boosting its signature sweetness. Okay, let's look at the actual manufacturing process, because the level of care here is honestly mind-blowing. It's a meticulous 4-step process. Step 1 is that crucial shading period we just mentioned, carefully managing the sunlight. Then, step 2 involves gently steaming the fresh leaves, literally right after harvest. That halts any oxidation and locks in that vibrant, unmistakable green color. Step 3 is super vital, drying the leaves without rolling them to keep them totally flat. And finally, step 4. The leaves, which are now officially tencha, have all their stems and rigid veins painstakingly removed. After that, they're slowly ground into an ultra-fine powder using a traditional stone mill. So the difference between matcha and standard green tea or sencha is incredibly stark. With sencha, the leaves are rolled during processing, and when you make a cup, you basically steep those leaves in hot water and then just throw them away. You're only drinking the infused water. But with matcha, because those unrolled tencha leaves are stone milled into a microscopic powder, you're whisking it directly into the water. You're consuming the entire leaf. That physical and sensory distinction, that's the whole shebang. Moving right along to section 2, from medicine to tea ceremony. Matcha has this deeply fascinating timeline spanning millennia, evolving from a literal medicinal brew into a huge cultural touchstone. Its roots actually trace all the way back to around 2800 BCE in China. Legend has it that Shen Nong, the father of Chinese medicine, discovered tea as an antidote after supposedly tasting 72 different poisons in a single day. It was literally a survival tool. Fast forward a few thousand years to 1191 in the 12th century. A Zen monk named Eisai brings tea seeds and the powdered tea method from China over to Japan. And from there, the culture just deepened. By the 16th century, figures like Sen no Rikyu perfected wabi cha. That's a style of tea ceremony emphasizing profound simplicity, rustic beauty, and deep spiritual meaning. Finally, by the late 19th century, global trade opened up, and this highly guarded cultural treasure started its grand journey around the world. The really crucial takeaway here is that early adopters didn't just drink this stuff for the taste. That monk, Eisai, wrote a famous specialized book called Kiseo Joyoki, where he explicitly stated, tea is the elixir of life. He intuitively recognized its profound health benefits, centuries, literally centuries, before modern labs could actually prove what was happening on a chemical level. Which brings us perfectly to section 3, harvesting whole leaf health. When you actually look at the raw nutritional data, it is absolutely staggering. According to the standard tables of food composition in Japan, just 100 grams of matcha packs 38.5 grams of dietary fiber, 28.1 milligrams of vitamin E, and a whopping 29,000 micrograms of beta-carotene. But here's the major catch, and exactly why matcha is a real game changer: these specific nutrients are water insoluble. Meaning if you just steep regular tea leaves in a pot and toss them, you're missing out on all of this. It literally goes straight in the trash. Because matcha is a fine powder made from the entire leaf, your body directly ingests 100% of those vital nutrients. And it goes way beyond just vitamins and fiber. Matcha contains this beautiful synergy of active compounds. First up, catechins. These give it that slight, pleasant astringency, but they also act as powerful antioxidants. They're just fantastic for your body's natural detox processes. Then you've got theanine. This amino acid brings out that rich umami sweetness, but it also actively promotes mental relaxation. And third, caffeine. But here's the kicker. Because the caffeine is absorbed right alongside the calming effects of the theanine, you get this beautiful state of relaxed alertness. No jittery, anxious spike and crash like you might get from a double espresso. All right, on to section 4, the global matcha boom. Because it's a powder, matcha is incredibly versatile as a culinary ingredient. It has completely transcended the traditional tatami mat tea room. I mean, I always find it kind of funny to imagine what a 12th century Zen monk would say if you handed them a towering iced vanilla matcha latte from a drive-thru. But today, you find those lattes in massive coffee chains everywhere. You see highly curated, dedicated matcha cafes popping up all over France. It's heavily used in baking, giving us vibrant green cakes, cookies, and decadent chocolates. And of course, it remains a beloved staple in traditional Japanese foods, seamlessly blended into savory soba noodles and sweet rice dumplings known as dango. Now for our final part, section 5, protecting true matcha's future. So I want to bring this right back to you and the question we asked at the very beginning of this explainer. With the market completely flooded with grain powders, is the matcha you're buying actually authentic? Does it really meet those incredibly strict standards of being shade-grown, unrolled, stone-milled tencha? Well, the harsh reality is that currently there is no binding international legal definition for the word matcha, and because of this loophole, standard green tea, stuff that's been grown in full, harsh sunlight, heavily rolled and milled with massive industrial metal grinders instead of stone, is being falsely packaged and sold globally as authentic matcha. In traditional terms, that's really just powdered green tea. It completely lacks the specific chemical makeup and the historical craftsmanship of true matcha. To combat this and protect their rich heritage, organizations in Japan, spearheaded by the National Agriculture and Food Research Organization, or NARO, are actively pushing for an ISO standard. This international standardization would legally define the highly specific cultivation and manufacturing methods required to actually use the name matcha around the world. It's an absolutely crucial step to protect the legacy of historic tea-producing regions like Uji in Kyoto and Nishio in Aichi, ensuring their centuries of dedicated craftsmanship aren't just diluted by cheap, mass-produced imitations. So as you can see, matcha isn't just some trendy flavor or a nice pop of color for your social media feed. It's a masterpiece of agriculture, medicine, and deep cultural philosophy. The next time you order a matcha, just take a moment to look at that powder. Will you be able to taste the 5,000 years of history swirling in your cup? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious.